Hey, good evening. Welcome to another Sunday sit down with candidate for Granville County Sheriff Robert Fout. My friend, how are you, sir? Happy
good.
Sunday, should you say?
Happy Sunday,
That's right.
Trace Knott, Next Door Radio, man. Hey, we're glad to be here, man. Highly favored and blessed. I'm excited. Time is getting closer, and my energy is still getting stronger. Even though it's like we get about 3 or 4 hours of sleep now, man. With everything else going on, but we're good, man. How's cross country going?
Cross country is good. We've had a couple meets under our belt and got one here coming up. Thursday? September 1st. Yeah, so we're getting there. We're almost there. But so it's been a good day so far.
Good.
Yeah. So couple questions for you here today. Again, the Sunday Sit Down airs every single Sunday beginning at 8 p.m. right here on Next Radio, of course, on your Facebook as well. So we've got a couple questions for you. You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, but I want to do something real quick.
Yeah.
I want to mix in what we started with. We've supposed to be doing the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to just speak about one pillar, and then we can go into that if that's cool.
Please.
One of the things that people will have to understand about the sheriff's duties and responsibilities as they're covered under the general statutes for the state of North Carolina, there are a few things that the sheriff is actually supposed to do, and the qualifications are. And for the most part, what I understand, and everybody has an understanding, then they have their truth, right? Is that the sheriff is responsible for a small gamut of things, right? The sheriff is responsible for serving civil papers. He's responsible for the jail. He's responsible for the unincorporated areas of a community to provide law enforcement operations. And then he's responsible for the courthouse and its safety, transfer of custody of prisoners. So the thing that we were going to speak about today was the courts. And what I did this past week or so is I went out and sat in front of the courthouse. And I was, again, during the COVID, I understand, with the cases and people standing in line. But then I started to look at and talk to the people that were standing in line for court proceedings. Not just adjudication of cases that they were, involved in, but witnesses or anything that they had to do with the courthouse. But they'd stand in line for like an hour outside. And I talked to some people who had medical conditions, and I'm like, well, what can I do as your sheriff to address you standing in line? So we had some ideas that came up. And I think they're good ideas, working with the Administrative Office of the Courts, AOC, working with the District Attorney and the judges to instill a way that we can have night court. Still have some court by Zoom for certain things to where people don't have to stand outside, and we don't have to have a medical emergency caused by somebody waiting outside or just in the heat. Because the day I was out there, they stood in line. One lady, I even walked by, I parked my vehicle, went back and stood in line beside her at the corner. And we stood there about 35, 40 minutes. And I understand the days that it opens up, but we have to do better. And then you have to also think about the appearance that it gives somebody coming through Granville County looking at we having a line wrapped around the courthouse, right? So we have to start looking at how we can make things more accessible for our people, how the sheriff can work with the DA, prosecutors, and the court system to make that better. And there's always a better way to do things. People may not agree with those things, but who wants to stand out there all day or for a couple of hours to get in court? Even if you're a witness in a case, right? So people can throw out there, well, they shouldn't have did the crime. Right, but what if you're a witness to a case? Is that fair to you, right? So we've got to look at things like that. The courthouse security is kind of solid right now from what I've seen. I still have a concern where people can't take wallets, pocketbooks inside. I can understand the cell phone thing. But again, if you work with the court system, work with the judges and the DA, there's got to be a better process. So if I have to pay a fine or need to pay for something and I can't take my debit card or bank my wallet in the courthouse, then you tell me to go get it. So, it's a way we have to start doing better. But I think those things we have to understand that the sheriff does have the autonomy to work with the court systems to make our waiting periods in the court system run smoother. And I think one of the things we could do is look at a night court procedure. I think it would be great to not have to take off work to go to court, take care of a case, or take care of something that you need to do. So that's the only thing about the court system, and we understand that, it takes all of us to work collectively to talk about these things to get the improvement and make things better. So that's the court system. I know you got some questions for me, so let's go.
There you go. Again, this Sunday sit down here on Next Door Radio. He is Robert Fountain, candidate for Granville County Sheriff. All right, here's first question. How do you deal with accusations that you aren't qualified for this role?
First, I think people should understand that here's the qualifications for the sheriff of Granville County. By state statute, to be 21, not have convicted a felony, and live and reside in the county which you would live in, pass a background investigation, right? So those things, I'll try to be cordial with everyone, but then when you go down to the basic law, when people want to talk about the statutes and they want to be law-abiding and talk about the Constitution. So when you start talking about this constitutionally held position, the sheriff is a constitutionally held position. And everything that's added to it is by the general statutes that people have voted on and decided that's what they need as a standard. But everything you bring to the table past that standard only makes you more qualified for that position, right? So I will try to explain to people what I've done that makes me the most qualified person for this position. And from the education, training, experience, and actual performing the things that I've said, and I just let it keep going. Again, Marines are built different. I went through, and every Marine has been through one of the toughest, most stringent recruit trainings that there are. So people just saying things, really, that's them. And then, I said it the other day, their truth is theirs. But as a United States Marine, we're built different. So you can say what you want to. I know who I am and whose I am. So when God's got my back, what people say really doesn't bother me too much. So people should stop trying to waste their time.
Next question. How do you plan, you have the opportunity to become elected in the next Granville County Sheriff. How do you plan on unifying the community once this happens?
Once we get elected, and I don't say I say we, because it's a collaborative effort of people, right? There's a head figurehead and there's a sheriff. He's the head. He makes the decisions. He's ultimately going to be held accountable for the decisions. But what we are thinking and what we're going to do is start this community advisory board. And the community advisory board will then start to set up meetings with the community. We heal the community by being present and accountable to them. So it means all the deputies, regardless of their rank, have to start going to the communities. We have to go door to door in every hamlet, every house, every village, introduce ourselves to our community and our stakeholders. So that's just like going to do business checks, right? So back in the day, when the Flatfoots, they used to call Flatfoot patrolmen. They used to check the doors of businesses and restaurants when they opened, when they closed, make sure they were safe. We have to get back to the basics of doing that, being servants to the people that we're supposed to serve. And that means just being more accountable, more approachable, and ever present in our communities. And I think once we do that, that's going to help. But I think more so, we're going to have a mobilization unit of the faith-based community. So what I want to do is hire some chaplains. I want to hire 2 or 3 chaplains to work with the community advisory board, outreach, and then we look at it from a holistic standpoint. Because it takes a village to raise a child. So we must start incorporating that whole concept of being a village, a community of law enforcement to work together to heal our community relationships with law enforcement across the board, across the spectrum. And I think the clergy is a good way to start healing those relationships because they can reach people that I may not be able to reach. But everybody's going to get the same customer service regardless if you voted for me or not, regardless if you said things that were derogatory or deflammatory, because in fact, again, what people say doesn't really have an effect on what we're going to do. We're going to treat everybody as the same. There is no difference who you are, who you love, and what you said to me or about me. Nothing. So it is what it is.
you're just tuning in, you're tuning in to the Sunday Sit Down every single Sunday, beginning at 8 p.m. with Granville County, for Granville County Sheriff Robert Fountain. Next question, my friend. Do you have you ever had concerns or any concerns about your safety for you or your family?
I do certain times because I move around a lot by myself about things. But because of who God has made me and what He has created, and thanks to thanks to the United States Marine Corps, and thanks for the things we've done, I'm always cognizant of where my surroundings and situational awareness of where I am. So I'm always on guard about my safety. The biggest things that worry me most times are my wife. Even with her training, my wife was a 30-year veteran of Durham Police Department, FBI task force officer, but I still concerned because that's my bride, right? So my bride and my son, my grandbabies, I'm concerned always about them. But our community, I hope and I can believe and have faith that our communities, even after all this dialogue and exchange, we can come to a point where we start to respect each other again, and we can believe in each other, and we can have the faith that things are going to be okay. Faith are things that you can trust and believe in even when you haven't seen those things. So we have to put faith and trust that we're going to be okay, regardless of this political season, this divisive politics. Like I said, my wife is my major concern. My son is in college, so he's not here. But my team, and I tell people now, man, focus your attention on me. If you have a problem with anything that I say or I do, bring it to me. Don't mess with my folks. Don't mess with my supporters. Leave my people alone. Because people will try to do things to people outside. If they can't, this is a great analogy right here. What happened? The DA's father in Wake Forest was kidnapped, right? Kevin Melton wasn't going after her. He knew he was going after the dad. He knew what he was doing. He knew if he hurt her father, that she would live with that, right? Because that's the thing that tug at your heartstrings. They can do something to you, you can blow it off and keep it moving. But when they hurt people that you love or that you're close to, you live with that, So that's where, my senses are always heightened when I'm with my wife or when she's out moving around. But the situational awareness that she's been trained in, like I said, my son's gone, my daughter lives somewhere else, so my grandbabies. So I'm always aware of it, but it does concern me sometimes, but I stay prayed up. And that's what we got to do, stay that way.
Next question, my friend. In the past, you were accused of wanting to defund the police. What are your thoughts about defunding law enforcement?
I think that's a ridiculous accusation, right? One, what sense does it make to defund an institution or organization that you're trying to lead? So that's like cutting your own throat when you're trying to accomplish something to heal a community. So defunding the police is a national talking point that lost elections for other people. So at no time have I ever, quote me on this, ever said anything about defunding the police. Everything I've said is about building bridges, re-establishing law enforcement as a priority. So when you talk about where deputies are leaving, you're talking about OPD is 11 officers short. They're going to other law enforcement agencies that are paying them more money. So we have to make sure we meet the need of paying our people more money, investing in them, investing in equipment and resources to make things better and to attract more qualified candidates and keep the people that we have. So we have to do things from a different approach, and that means funding. That means working with grants and proposals for equipment. And that means the allocation of other things that we can utilize to attract more people. We've been looking for the wrong people to bring in to this position. The status quo doesn't work. The 21st century is here. We have to meet the need of our people, which means investing in our people. So I don't defund nothing.
Again, this Sunday Sit Down happens every single Sunday beginning at 8 p.m. with Granville County for Graham County Sheriff Robert Fountain. Next question and final question for you, my friend. Do you have any examples of duties as a law enforcement officer that you can share?
Yes. So I'm gonna date myself a little bit. So
I just turned 35. We're good.
happy birthday Wednesday, right?
It was last
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Happy birthday,
I
man.
appreciate it.
And tell your brother happy birthday.
I will do it.
So 1986. So that's how far we go back. We go back to 1986. So the first day after I graduated the Law Enforcement Academy down in San Antonio, Texas, was to work with Onslow County Sheriff's Office, Jacksonville Police Department, the Naval Investigative Service. That's where my undercover business started, right? So I started straight out the gate in the streets in the communities, buying drugs, buying equipment, stolen stuff. We were building cases all the way from Jacksonville to Havelock, Morehead City, Wilmington. So I acted as an undercover. I was an undercover officer and had the ability to arrest people because I was under the supervision of Naval Investigative Services and all these joint operations that we were running. Once that was over, then the SWAT team became in the non-commissioned officer in charge of the SWAT team at Camp Lejeune. We served the same papers, warrants that the civilian people do in civilian capacity. So if you go onto a military installation as a civilian, you commit a crime, who do you think is arresting you? And who's charging you? Military policemen are going to arrest you and you're going to get charged for those crimes. If you get a speeding ticket, well, I ain't going to go into that. So from traffic enforcement, criminal investigations, assets, seizures, and things of that nature, security operations, entry and exits from the gatehouse, civilian patrol investigations, like I said, undercover, dignitary protection of people, vice presidents that came on board. Have I ever kicked in the door and was a point man? Yes. We didn't use patrol rifles back then. We used the Colt 45s when I first started. Then we went and transitioned into Berettas. So yeah, was I a point man going into entry? Yes. Have I arrested folks? Yes. The worst one that I had, a Marine, had sexually assaulted his 3-year-old daughter. Right? So doing that investigation, we don't turn that over to civilian law enforcement. We handle those investigations internally, so he wound up going to jail. So everything we did, and then conducted law enforcement operations nationally, NATO security operations in foreign countries, Reykjavik, Iceland, Honduras, all over the country, all over the world. So the capacity, what we did from law enforcement perspective from that was the same thing that deputies do as well. All right. So then from the correctional, this is where I start to separate myself from other people. So from the correctional standpoint, from the bottom to the top, I ran a prison. I ran a cell block to running and managing a prison, to being in charge of the high security maximum control housing unit that housed 100 of the most violent felons in the state of North Carolina. You do that without a weapon. The strongest weapon that you had was your mind, how to deal with people, right? So when you can deal with people inside a prison system without a gun on your side, you have a little more at stake. And everybody in there, just like in the military, 90% of the people in there didn't care about you and could hurt you at that time. So moving through the ranks in the correctional environment, the custody, security, operation, the safety, sanitation, and the welfare of the inmates and staff, and being a management level person inside the prison, that starts to separate me from other people. And then when we took over gang investigations, and when people ask how many people have you supervised, right? So picture this. When you manage a prison, you have a whole shift of people in the absence of a warden. You're in charge of that prison and staff and 1,000 inmates, right? So when you start looking at, when I became the gang coordinator, 100 counties, all gang investigations were sent to me. I had the approving authority for 100 gang and 100 counties. Then I had to take over 55 prisons, an intelligence unit, gang units for 55 prisons. So in some shape, form, or capacity, they would report to me about gang investigations, their training, equipment, all those things came to me. The budgets that I had to look at and manage through those types of things. And then when I became a probation officer, again, a separation from other people who've been to basic law enforcement training, and that's it, to the advanced training that we've completed. So going through the probation and parole academy, the high-risk fugitive warrants that we've served, warrantless searches, law enforcement officers on the street cannot perform a warrantless search unless they're with a probation officer, right? So we had the autonomy to go in somebody's houses on post-release supervision or probation to conduct searches. Did we conduct searches? Yes. Did we do things, make high-risk warrants? Yes. Did we arrest people? Yes. Civil processes? Yes. So when we go in and do those blue sheets and put people in and have the bonds and stuff, recommendations, yes, we've done those things. And then again, once I matriculated to the operations manager for the fugitive extradition section, where I had the authority to go to any state and arrest anybody and bring them back who was wanted for justice in North Carolina. So when I was trained to fly while armed, did I carry a gun on a plane? Yes. Did I arrest people all over this country? Yes. So again, the separation of what other people have done in basic law enforcement to the advanced training and operations of things that I have done. Those things, I think, separate me, and those qualifications, you know, we're going to continue to put it there. That's a small caveat. Again, we're not going to keep everybody all night to talk about a 7-page resume, right? So it is what it is.
And Sunday sit down here on Next Door Radio every single Sunday at 8 p.m. with Granville County candidate for Granville County Sheriff Robert Fountain. Final thing, and I told you that last one was it, but if you have the opportunity to either host or be a part of a debate for other party, how do you feel about that?
I was asked that question today because a few days ago, and I said I was going to answer that today. Yes, but here's the thing: they're going to come stipulations. Two things will happen. I think I mentioned that there are certain places or people that we could look at and approach about hosting a debate. Next Door Radio, one of the stipulations, and I'm going to go to two things. I'm going to go to the request about the GOP and Vance Johnson's folks want to host and decide a debate. All right, so we'll address that one out the gate. Yes, I'll do that. Stipulation one, everybody has to agree to it and everybody has to be there when I get there. Nobody cops out, nobody not show up, none of that. Two, half of the room, since there are 3 political parties in Granville County, we use the expo as a place to do it. Every party gets a third of the seats because there's independents, unaffiliated, Republicans, and Democrats. Everyone gets a share of the tickets, right? We host it where it's equally divided. Next, the moderators have to come from the parties in which we all represent. So Smoot is an unaffiliated, it needs to be an unaffiliated moderator. I am a Democrat, our Democratic chair needs to be a moderator. Vance Johnson, the Republican, McHenry, I think his name is, needs to be a moderator. Next Door Radio gets all the questions and they are not shared with anybody until the debate is done. Trey Snide and local media cover the whole event and we go from there. So nobody can say that I'm walking away from what I said. I said yes, but the thing that I realized, ain't nobody asked any other candidate except me. Why is that? So we're ready to go. We're ready to go. We've built this thing. We will challenge anybody about what we know and our experiences and knowledge about what we want to do moving forward. The next thing was there are several organizations that can host events, right? And I said the Chamber of Commerce being one, which is basically our business owners and relationships that they have. I think they would be a great group to do it. And what I've done is I've already asked the Democratic Party to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce. So if the GOP and Vance Johnson's folks want me to put it in place, then okay, don't say you want to hold it and host it and then turn around and say, well, Fountain ain't doing A, B, C, and D. So, okay. So what we've done, Ms. Lahoma Ramaki is going to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, set this thing in motion, ask them would they be willing to, and hopefully Next Door will be willing to be there with us. And we'll see if we can make it happen. And any other grassroots organization that want to put it together, those same stipulations are going to be in place for everybody. Everybody must be at the table. Everybody must not have prior knowledge of the questions that are being asked. That's only fair. So we're going to do it fair. We're going to do it right. Set it in motion. I've said it. I'm there. Make it happen. Period. So
Fantastic.
it is what it is.
Yeah, Sunday sit down here on Next Radio. Final remarks for you before we end this segment.
Again, thanks to Next Door Radio. Thanks to my supporters again. I would ask that people be kind to each other. Somebody made a comment that I'm not qualified to be a dog catcher in Granville County, right? So when we start making comments like that about the person that's going to be your next sheriff, how do you walk back from that, right? So if you have some legitimate thing with me, don't go on social media and put those things out there like dog whistles or whatever you want to call them. Come see me about it. Come say that to me and let's discuss that, right? So we don't need to hide behind social media to do those things. You can see me anywhere. I'm not hiding from anybody. I will be at Family Diner sometimes for breakfast, lunch, or I'll be at Bobo's Menswear where I set up shop sometime, or down at Larry Downey's place, or anywhere in the street, man. I'm not hiding from nobody. I'm come to Next Door Radio. We can sit down and talk about it. If that's the way you feel, that I'm not qualified to be a dog catcher, then have your truth. But again, I'm good. And lastly, this coming Saturday, September 3rd, we will be at the winery in Ridgeway. It's called Seven Springs Vineyard and Farms.
Beautiful scene.
Beautiful place. So what we're going to do, we're asking all of my supporters, we're having a live R&B concert there. Music, food trucks will be there. I'm asking all my supporters to wear white. And we're calling it an all-white event. All white means traditionally, way back in the day, because y'all young folks don't know about this. After Labor Day, back in the day, you were technically supposed to wear white.
Mm-hmm.
So Labor Day was like the last weekend you're supposed to wear white. So we want to do an all-white event for all of our supporters to come out, even people who just want to ask me questions. I'm going to have a Q&A out there at the winery the same day. So in between sets, they're going to give me some time to speak to people from all over about what I want to do and what we want to bring to the table. And tomorrow at 11, I'm part of a roundtable discussion with other law enforcement executives with Sherry Beasley in Durham. I felt honored to be invited to this roundtable discussion because I think some of our people saw something that we wanted to bring to the table and wanted to, talk to us about it. So tomorrow at 11, I will be with this roundtable discussion with other law enforcement executives and Ms. Beasley and her team. I'll talk to anybody. If you're talking about law enforcement, if you're talking about healing relationships, if you're talking about moving Granville County forward, I want to hear what you got to say. I think I even talked to Mr. Sosserman, his name is, that's running against Terry Garrison. Yeah, I spoke to him. Talked to, I think I talked to his campaign manager at Family Diner one day. So, again, I'll talk to anybody. I'll share with anything you want to talk about to a point, but then we exhaust the point when it starts to be attacking. You start attacking me about stuff and I get tired of hearing it, you're going to not get a response. Keep it clean, keep it cordial, and voice your opinion. And once you say, okay, I don't like you, I'm not going to vote for you, why would we keep talking? So, again, that's the Marine in me. So, it is what it is. Thanks to Trace 9, Next Door Radio, Sunday Sit Down, every Sunday at 8 o'clock, right here at Next Day Radio when our schedules don't conflict. Good luck this week, man. I count it a blessing to be able to be here with you on Sundays, man. It's really a blessing. I appreciate you being just a middle-of-the-road guy. You've always shown the courage to stay in the middle. Unbiased opinions and unbiased truth about our community. So thank you for what you do, brother. Thank you for Carlos for showing up. I'm going to get something to eat.
Yeah, well, my friend, I appreciate you and do so much for the community, and I appreciate you as well. Thanks for the kind words. Again, my name is Trace, and I'm here, part of our local talk and the Sunday Sit Down. This is Decision 2022. He is the candidate for Granville County Sheriff Robert Defund. Until next time, hey, God bless. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Facebook.